Happy International Women's Day, everyone. In the spirit of seeking to empower women, today's video will be focusing on how female leaders of the church, even in senior leadership positions, are underpaid and underrepresented. And what a beautiful day it is to discuss that topic. And all this.
Is it a bad idea to get married before you have a good amount of savings in the bank? You and Derek didn't have any money in the bank. You don't have any money now.
We don't have any money now.
We're going to move very quickly past the fact that they were speaking to the YSA of West Africa in that clip. And so Jeffrey R. Holland, with his £120,000 minimum stipend, was earning over 100 times the annual income that the YSA he was speaking to could have expected to earn at that time. No, we'll move past that because I want to focus on this comment.
You don't have any money now.
We don't have any money now.
While this is demonstrably false in a literal sense, and certainly within the context of their audience, there is a kernel of truth to what Jeffrey R. Holland said here, because of the 145 senior church leadership positions, of which 144 are currently occupied, only 9 of them are held by women. That is just 6.25% of all senior church leadership positions. And all of those 9 positions are as general officers of the church, not as general authorities. And while it's impossible to say for certain because the church's lack of financial transparency, from all the data that we have and from everything that we can infer, general officers of the church are not paid the same stipend as general authorities of the church. It would appear they're not paid at all. Women therefore make up 60% of the unpaid senior church leadership positions. So when Jeffrey R. Holland said,
You don't have any money now,
he may very well have been alluding to the fact that she isn't paid in the same way that he is. Women have never been particularly well represented in church leadership positions. As we've said, they make up 6.25% of the church's 144 senior leadership positions. So as you would imagine, when the Mormon Church's General Conference rolls around and assignments are made for speakers, women are not particularly well represented. In fact, according to the church, women have only been speaking at General Conference regularly since 1984. In April 1984, Elaine A. Cannon, General Young Women President, and Barbara B. Smith, General Relief Society President, both spoke. Women have spoken regularly in general sessions from 1984 to the present. Now, regularly actually means that they wouldn't speak again for another 4 years, and then in 1988, they would begin to speak on an annual basis. Before 1984, only 5 women spoke at General Conference. Lucy Mack Smith, the mother of the prophet Joseph Smith, Louisa Y. Robinson, the General Relief Society President, Ruth Mae Fox, the General Young Ladies Mutual Improvement Association President, Mae Anderson, the General Primary President, and Miss Ruth Myrtle, President of the National Education Association. I don't know if the camera caught that. Right, just packing to go away with my brother for the weekend. You'll be able to see what we're up to over on his channel. I'll put a link in the pinned comment. That's going to be fun. Not a kind of YouTube video I'd normally make, but I'll be filming with him. We're going over to Germany, it's awesome. But the key here, the reason I'm interrupting is because I believe her name is actually Ruth Pertle, and I've been calling her Myrtle, and I'm not entirely sure why. I think perhaps I was betrayed by autocorrect when I was writing my notes and the script that I took out on the road with me. But anyway, her name's Ruth Pertle. Sorry, Ruth. Ruth Myrtle, interestingly, was not a member of the church, and yet she spoke at General Conference. And that will become important later. Now, since women have spoken regularly in general sessions of conference, there have been 142 women that have spoken, which sounds like a lot until you realise that men have spoken 2,158 times in that same period. That means that for every woman that speaks, approximately 15 men speak. The best conference for women speakers was October 2021, where 4 female leaders of the church spoke, but they still only made up about 10% of speakers, which meant that for every woman that spoke, 9 men spoke. And just because the women are underrepresented in the church's leadership doesn't mean that they should be underrepresented at conference, right? After all, Ruth Myrtle spoke, Pertle, and she wasn't even a member of the church. When Mormon blogger Katie Ludlow Rich contacted the First Presidency of the Church in 2019 to ask them why more women weren't being represented at General Conference, she received a letter from their secretary. Now I've got Katie's own words right here, giving the 3 points that they made to try and justify the reason reason why women are so poorly represented at General Conference. First, with rare exceptions, speakers at General Conference are leaders who have authority to function throughout the entire church, and significantly more men serve in these positions. Second, he says it's not practical or advisable for the 9 female general officers to speak at every conference because they are intended to serve on a part-time basis, some while maintaining full-time employment. Third, while some suggest that the wives of general authorities or sisters be invited to speak, they are not called or authorized to address the general church. Now, we've already discussed the first 2 points raised by the church, and to be honest, the solutions are quite simple. Call more women to positions of senior leadership within the church and pay them so that they can serve full-time. Also, I think it's just worth mentioning that in one 2021 General Conference, Russell M. Nelson spoke. Why are you out flying today? I mean, it's a beautiful day, but why are you out flying? It's also worth mentioning that at that October 2021 General Conference, Russell M. Nelson, the prophet of the church, spoke 3 times. One man spoke almost as many times as all the female leaders of the church. As to the third point, well, we're about to see that really the church has no excuse to invite people who aren't authorized to speak to the general membership of the church. In fact, they would go on to do so very quickly. Just 6 months after that letter to Katie Rich, in the Saturday evening session of the April 2020 General Conference, Lordie Ruth Cook, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, she spoke, even though she wasn't a female leader of the church. She wasn't a senior leader of the church. She wasn't authorized to speak to the entirety of the church. She, like Ruth Myrtle, clearly got authorization from somewhere. As of the time of recording this in March 2026, since that record-breaking conference session in October 2021 where 4 female leaders of the church spoke, the average number of female leaders speaking at sessions of General Conference is just 2.75. And I think it's about to get worse. On the 19th of November 2025, the church cancelled the Saturday evening session of General Conference, citing a renewed focus. Now, perhaps that is an acknowledgement that by the time you get to the 7th hour of talks on a Saturday, people are indeed starting to lose focus. This change was also welcome news to me, who, as a commentator living in the UK, had to stay up until 4 AM due to the time difference just to be able to cover that session of conference. And this is not the first time that sessions of General Conference have been adjusted. The Saturday evening sessions of conference used to be gendered, but in June 2021 they were taken away, only to be put back in July 2021 as a general session. Those gendered sessions, a men's only one in April and a women's focused one in October, but that was still spoken at by men and presided over by men, they went away with the advent of the Saturday evening session becoming a general session of conference. And with them disappeared the only instance in which women outnumbered men in terms of speaking assignments. Men still spoke at the women's session, but generally it was focused on women delivering addresses. And yes, it wasn't a general session of conference, and for a long time it wasn't even part of the main conference weekend. But it was still something. And after the first of these Saturday evening general sessions, which was in the October 2021 conference, in which 4 female leaders of the church spoke, we never saw as many female leaders of the church speak again. And so with the cancellation of the Saturday evening's general session of conference, in which 1 woman normally spoke, it's my worry that we'll be down to just 2 women speaking across the entire weekend. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what April General Conference brings. And so that you don't miss it, be sure to subscribe. This channel only survives thanks to the support of people like you, and so subscribing really helps, liking the video really helps, and if you can, supporting me through things like DonorBox and Patreon is especially helpful. $5, $10, $20 a month, or whatever you can afford through DonorBox, or the $6 a month that Patreon costs, helps to keep this channel running. So if you can, please support me, and then check out this video here. I think that's a helicopter. Hey.